What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? You're on another episode of Chiefs Focus Live. The fucking schedule is out. And everybody is bitching about the Lions being week 1. I don't know why. I don't either. It's going to be a good game. It's Goff against Mahomes again.
Yeah.
I mean, why cry?
I doubt we'll have 100 points, but...
Yeah, no. Hell no. But we may. But they ain't. Why cry about it? I mean, you don't need the best game of the season week 1 anyway. Not to mention, we pretty much have 16 primetime games this year. When you really look at it, we have 2 noon games. And one of those is on Christmas Day, so that's a primetime. I mean, you really can't ask for much more.
Yeah, some people would say that those 325 games technically aren't prime time, but the way those work is that they're usually standalone games.
Yeah.
So most of the country will just get that game. So they're essentially primetime games too. So the only non-primetime game, excluding week 18, because we don't know what will happen then, is going to be week 2 against Jacksonville. Is the only normal 12 o'clock game for the Chiefs schedule.
Well, I'm pretty happy with the schedule. I've heard people say in a couple of group chats that they thought this was a lot harder than last year. I don't know if it is or isn't. We still have the 3 teams in our division. I don't know. I think the first 9 weeks of last year was harder. What's up, Chiefs Live? But who knows? I mean, last year they thought the schedule. We did have a pretty tough schedule, but I think for us it was fairly weak. When you're really in the grand scheme of things, everybody thought the Raiders were going to be better than they were. Everybody thought the Broncos were going to be better than they were. Everybody thought the Chargers. Again, by the way, the Chargers are now the reigning off-season champions of the AFC West, 10 years running.
Again.
So, hey, we're proud of those guys. They won the off-season AFC West.
Golf clap.
Yeah, they put it out themselves. So what the fuck?
Hey, the Chiefs' schedule is so tough because a lot of it has to do with the AFC West or the AFC conference in itself. The competition is just stellar over here. It has a lot to do with it.
How are we feeling, guys, about the schedule? I'm okay with it. What about you guys? That's what Chiefs Live wants to know.
Let's see. I don't like how late we play Cincinnati again.
Yeah.
I kind of want that game to be further up in the schedule. Week 17 facing Cincinnati.
They do it for a reason, dude, because they feel like those are the 2 teams that are going to be – it's going to be, it could be a determining game at the end of the season.
It is going to be a determining game. That game is going to factor playoff seeding. I mean, that's
look at the ratings they got last year. I mean, it was the most watched regular season game.
So win or lose, I guess I'm drinking anyways.
Hey, it's at Kansas City, though, so that's a good thing, right?
Yep. What's up, Big Will? Look, man. Well, Quentin, come on now. I mean, all that's going to that New Year's game, if they win, it just depends on what you're going to be drinking, win or lose. One may be tequila, one may just be beer. You just don't know. I think tequila, for me, it makes me very mean when I have drank it. So if I lost, that's probably what I'd be drinking. Philip, what's up? Big dog. But yeah, man, it's a pretty good schedule. I mean, to me, I think it's just gonna solidify how good we are.
Yeah, there's no murderer's row. Like last year we were talking about this. The first half of that season, it just felt like, good defense, good team after another, right? There really wasn't a break. I feel like this, while no team is easy in the NFL, if you don't have your best, you're going to lose. Look what happened in Indianapolis last year. But if you look at the schedule, I don't feel like that there's a 3-4 game series that I'm just like, man, that month is going to be difficult. The other thing is probably 6, 7, and 8, right? We've got Denver, Chargers, Denver. I don't like facing any team that close back to back. I know we just dealt with that this year with the Broncos again, but Yeah, that's just kind of weird.
Yeah.
Having the late bye, that's always great. Chiefs played a lot of football games over the last 5 years, so trying to push that break back as far as you can is always better.
Yeah. Hey, look, man, and this is not going to be, a lot of people looked at it and go, well, could be the season we go 17-0. Okay, well, look, man, I'm not putting anything past the Jaguars right now. I still think they're going to be a tough team to beat.
And their division
really do.
Sucks.
I think the Bills, I mean, the Pats, The Bungles, we could beat them. I don't know. The Jags might be that team that an early loss for us. I'm just playing devil's advocate. And it kicks us in the ass to get moving quicker. I mean, we've had it happen in the past, so
13-4. 13-4, and I still think it's going to be good enough to wrap up the 1 seed because the AFC, I think it's the East and the North are going to be so difficult for those teams because they're going to beat the hell out of each other, just like the old AFC West was. And I think the only team that could be the number 1 seed besides us is the Jaguars because their division sucks.
It's garbage, man. It's garbage.
It is. It's just dog.
It's the New England
Patriots.
Garbage
that flutters away in the landfill. It's garbage. It's garbage.
Yeah, it's that big pile of dog shit that turns into a coffee table and you just set your drink on it and move on. That's what
you need, right, to get a number 1 seed. If you're not, because even if you're just like the Chiefs were dominant last year, right? They went undefeated in the AFC West last year and won the division, and it was a subpar division. I mean, the Chargers were good. They weren't stellar, but they were good. They weren't bad. The Raiders sucked. The Broncos sucked. So 2 out of the 3 teams that you face suck. The problem that the Chiefs are going to have this year is that not only will I think the bottom 2 teams be a little bit more improved. I'm not too worried about beating them or losing to them as much as I am about just the rest of the AFC conference being better because, I would say, I think, do we go to the Jets? I think I would worry about that game because of Aaron Rodgers. If they didn't have Aaron Rodgers, I'd chalk it up as a W. But as you know, the Chiefs have not done well on the East Coast for decades, going way back. They just haven't done good. So traveling over to the East Coast is going to be difficult. Plus, you're playing a Hall of Fame quarterback with arguably a top 5 defense in the NFL. So I think 13-4 is reasonable. Could they get more than 13 wins? Yeah, they can get 14 or 15 wins. So I think going into this season, though, and you look at, again, the American Football Conference, the QBs you're going to have to face, and then the schedule that you just saw, I think if you get 13 wins out of that and only have 4 losses, I still think you put yourself at the worst case scenario, a 2 seed, best case scenario, 1 seed.
I tend to agree with you. I don't know that they're going to fall. I don't know if they're going to regress to a 13-win season just yet. I just feel like they have a lot to prove. And something that I talked to another guy about today, just really quick. I don't know if anybody watched the New Heights show with Andy Reid on it, but it was fucking funny. Andy Reid is great, man. The guy is just comical. He really is. He's got that dry humor that just cracks me up. But I'm looking at his life as a head coach, and the more I think about it, and the more accolades that he gets, especially right now, and with what he's done over the years, I would put him right there as probably the best coach in NFL history. If he wins one more Super Bowl, which he will, he's the best coach in NFL history. Consider everything he's had to deal with in his life, came back from it, still dealing with part of it. And then take into consideration how you look at like a Belichick, and he's a defensive-minded coach. He really has pretty shitty drafts. He drafted horrible this year. He had 3 winning records, 3 winning seasons, I should say, prior to going to the Patriots. And then now he looks like,
Luck into Tom Brady.
Yeah. And all the all those refs are gone now that, they all retired off of those guys. But they're just not. You look at Andy Reid and you think, man, this guy has just done it all. He knows how to bring in coaches, the supporting staff. He knows how to groom everybody players coach. I don't know, man. One more Super Bowl, he's going to go down as probably the best head coach in history.
Well, I would say too that the fact that he's been so successful with 2 franchises, I think that's
absolutely
because he's rebuilt 2 franchises. I mean, he rebuilt the Eagles more than he did Kansas City because Kansas City had some pieces to work with when he got here. But I mean, even when he got here, Kansas City was coming off of a god-awful
2-14 season.
I mean, so
say it again, 2-14.
He rebuilt. He rebuilt. He was part of 2 rebuilds, and he brought 2 franchises to relevance.
And 2 franchises to a Super Bowl. Yeah, he didn't win with the Eagles, but he brought him there.
I mean, he's been to 10 championship games at this point? Because he was didn't he go to 4 or 5 with the Eagles?
5. It's 10 now.
With the during the Donovan and Mike Vick era. So he has his resume is long. He's got a long resume, and I think that's a real conversation. Speaking of the Eagles, so we face them November 20th, coming off the bye week. Mm-hmm. Andy Reid is undefeated against the Eagles. Plus, we know how well Andy Reid is after a bye week. He's only lost 2 games post bye week in his career. So, man, they kind of screwed Philadelphia there, didn't they?
That's gonna be a hell of a game, man. You think about it. They're still pissed off about the holding call. They're still pissed off about the Super Bowl loss. Then you come into town and you got, the second highest paid quarterback in NFL history. Plus, you just had what most experts would consider the best draft. And so it's a statement game for them, but it's a statement game for us too, because if the Chiefs, with all the, acquisitions and re-signings that the Eagles made, if the Chiefs are able to go in with some of the restructuring that they did on the offensive and defensive line and win and then do it convincingly, that's a statement that the whole league is going to have to sit back and say, yeah, they are still a level above everyone else.
I'll say this too. Thank God that's a home game because
oh, hell yeah. Man,
I don't know you going into Philadelphia after beating them in the Super Bowl, and you're right, that's going to be a hyped up game. That'll, it's a Monday Night Football game, and so you're going to have that. It's once again going to be the only game playing, and man, there's nothing better than prime time at Arrowhead. So if you've never been to a primetime football game, now's your chance because you've got 7 of them.
They're amazing. Yeah. It's pretty – I'm still not convinced on the Eagles yet. I'm sorry, but I'm just not.
Convinced what?
I'm not convinced that they are the team to beat in the NFC. I'm just not convinced yet because they don't have the same coaching staff. Sirianni didn't do that by himself, bro. I'm sorry, but he didn't.
But a lot of people said Sirianni was just like he's a benefactor. They said, man, pretty much even some of the players said that team could run themselves because they had so many veterans and so much talent on it.
Well, you can say that now, but some of those veterans are walking out there with canes. I mean, Fletcher Cox is 141 years old. He shouldn't be playing anymore, man. But I'm just telling you. Philip said my 5 most important games this season: Eagles, Bills, Bengals, Jets, and Lions. Probably, yeah, I could see that. Nah, man, you lose your offensive coordinator, you lose your defensive coordinator. He's a second year head coach, I guess he was. Was he a second year?
No, because he was there.
But he wasn't their head coach.
4th year.
Is it?
Yeah.
Third,
maybe Sirianni?
Yeah, maybe it's his third. It was his 3rd year.
I don't know.
I think it's his 4th year.
Maybe it was. I don't know. But regardless, he didn't do it by himself. And honestly, until they got that offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator and a quarterback's coach, Jalen Hurts wasn't that great either. So I just feel like, and some of those guys took their coaching staff with them. I don't know, man. I'm not convinced yet. I want to see what they do in the season. Because, they had a very easy schedule last year.
So let me just get this straight. Let me just put facts on the table. We're honest.
Put it out there. Spit this shit.
So you are convinced that the Philadelphia Eagles are for real.
I'm not convinced that they're what they were.
You're going to continue to give me shit the entire offseason because a 3rd-string quarterback came out and played average and you're convinced he's the second coming of Jesus?
I didn't say he was the second coming of Jesus. Nobody said the second coming of Jesus.
Who are we talking about?
He's talking about Brock Purdy, man. He's upset because I said Brock Purdy is a decent. I said he was a good quarterback and he wasn't terrible. That's all I said. It's a very and I've said this. Anybody that listens to the show will know this. I said it's a very easy system to be a good quarterback in. But he did go 7-0, and he was a 7th-round
he's loaded,
Mr. Irrelevant.
He's got weapons. Yeah,
he's got weapons. Anybody would look good in that system except Josh Johnson. So I am not saying anything other than the fact that the Eagles didn't have the San Francisco defense. They didn't even have the defense that they thought they had since the 85 Bears because they couldn't do shit against us. So that's all I'm getting at. Until they can prove that they, their schedule, their strength of schedule shows what they are.
They have the most difficult schedule this upcoming season because they have the teams they play overall have the highest winning percentage. So they have one of the most difficult schedules in the NFL this coming season.
Look how improved they are on offense. I mean, that's what people I think are not wanting to admit with the Eagles. Dude, they just got the running back from Detroit. They already had one of the most potent running, games with Jalen Hurts in the running back. And you guys know this firsthand by watching them play the Chiefs. They will eat up the clock and beat you to death. They will wear your defense out. So as good as I think our defense played, especially the second half of last year, they at one point in time were running the ball down our throat and killing us. And they made
the only one that ran the ball down our throat was Jalen Hurts. Their running backs didn't do shit against us.
But that's what
they had 43 fucking yards between the three of them.
Right.
And then you have a running back. Okay. But then we also got to talk about Jalen Hurts getting shoved over a line by some guy, grabbing him by his ass and throwing him over for a first down on 4th down 6 fucking times. I mean, look, man, how many times does Mahomes have to? We don't have to have that shit. Mahomes don't need it. He can be 4th and 8 and throw that shit. He'll run it.
But that's what I'm saying, though. We can score. Like this year, we showed diversity by being able to do 10, 12, 14 play drives. The thing is that the Eagles perfect that. And they can pick and choose, because they run the ball so well when they want to go deep. But what I'm saying is that for the other NFC teams to try to stop them, that's going to be a headache because they're going to grind the ball, grind the clock, and then they're not going to give you much time. And if you make mistakes, because you think about it, the second half we had to play perfect to win that game. Perfect. In which we're capable of doing because we had Patrick Mahomes. And nobody else has Patrick Mahomes. Nobody else. And that's what I'm saying. The only thing that would have derailed the Eagles before they got to us is that San Francisco can duplicate the same thing that the Eagles can. They can run the football. They have a
better running game, way better running game.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. And they have a better defense too.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm saying. So I think that depending on how Brock Purdy, I'm still not convinced that what's the other guys? That Trey Lance, the other guy out there?
Yeah, they're not going to. I guess they're going with Purdy.
Well, they said that he's QB1. They're going to compete. I wouldn't be surprised if Lance beat him out. But then again, I'm cool with Purdy because he was really consistent, and that's what you need. Really, you don't need if you can get to a Super Bowl and then 3 conference championships with Jimmy freaking Garoppolo. Yeah. Then all you need is somebody that's consistent that won't turn the ball over, and you can get there. That's how good their team is. So I will agree with you that it won't be a cakewalk, and I think the number one contender to the Eagles is the 49ers, but I still think at this point in time, without any games being played or anything like that, I still think the Eagles are the number one seed over there with the San Francisco's trying to knock them off.
I'm with there.
I'm right there with you.
I've got Philadelphia 1 on the NFC side. I've got the 49ers 2. The thing with the 49ers really is their quarterback position. I don't know if they know exactly who's going to be their starting quarterback yet. I think because it's just going to come back to who's coming back from injury, right? Trey Lance destroyed his ankle. He had to have ankle surgery. And Brock Purdy basically had to have Tommy John surgery, right? He tore his UCL in his arm. So
yeah, that's what I don't think he'll be ready. I don't.
Yeah,
think he's
so
gonna be
I don't
ready.
know. Now throwing a baseball versus a football is two different mechanics, right? Elbow is used more in a baseball, shoulder is used more in a football, but obviously, it has to be working. And, it has to work in order for you to throw the damn ball. So I think they're going to play whoever's healthier. We know that Brock Purdy's injury at the beginning of the offseason got pushed back because his elbow was so inflamed that they couldn't do surgery yet. So I just think that whoever's the healthiest is probably going to be their starting quarterback. But other than that, the NFC is so weak. I mean, the Vikings, who we face week 5, the Vikings are not good. They're going to fall off, right? We talked about this yesterday. They had a 3-point differential over their entire season and had 13 wins. That's not replicated. You can't replicate that. You can't replicate that.
That is a small margin for error.
Yeah, it's a small margin of error. That's not happening again. The Vikings.
So you don't think any of the teams in the NFC got better during the draft?
I think the Eagles got better.
I'm not talking about just the Eagles.
I think the Jets obviously got better, but that's on the AFC side. On the NFC side, I have to think about that. I don't think the Cowboys really got any better. It's such a quarterback dependent league.
The Cowboys,
it's hard for me to.
Derek Carr's over there.
Yeah, the Saints got better because they actually have somebody playing quarterback. The Falcons got better,
Winston.
But yeah,
30
without
for 30.
Jameis Winston, without Mr. 30 for 30.
He's 30 for 30, man.
Come on, man, 30 for 30.
The thing with the Saints and the Falcons is did they get better? Yeah, probably, but it just seems like margin of error better. I don't think he got significantly better.
Yeah, but I think the Falcons and the Cardinals are about the same level when it comes to their rebuild, because the Falcons got maybe more pieces than the Cardinals, but neither one of them have a real quarterback. I mean, yeah, Cardinals quarterback, he's fast and he's athletic and all this stuff, but he's literally one hit away from being right back on the bench and spending the rest of the season on the IR because he's not big enough.
Who are you talking about?
The Arizona Cardinals quarterback.
Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray.
I don't think he
playing for the
plays
first 8 games anyway. I don't think he plays the first 8 games.
I don't think he should come back at all this year.
No, I don't either. That injury's bad.
I think that division, though, I think the Seahawks got better. If you're asking me about another team that got better in the NFC, I thought they had a decent draft. And you're coming off a second year with your new quarterback, right? Geno Smith is now back for his second year there, and so I think the Seahawks got better.
The Eagles think adding the Georgia players will help, but Jalen Carter already got problems, and that's the last.
I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about that.
I'm not. I mean, that's just a kid being a kid. I mean, who didn't go drag racing? I mean, he wasn't involved in anything like a robbery or assault or anything like that. I just
didn't he get cleared?
Yeah, he got probation, and he has to use the community service, but and the NFL can't suspend him because it happened before he was on an NFL team.
Yeah.
So the NFL can't do anything about it.
If I'm gonna tell you like this, if he would have failed somehow to the Chiefs, I would have loved it because the dude is dynamic, man. If you see him and the way that he's able to use his hands and his quickness and his speed for his size, I mean, he's a smaller version of Chris Jones, I think. I don't know if he'll be that good, but just the way that he can move for his size is pretty impressive.
He's got a lot
My
of power.
question is, how the fuck did the Eagles end up with 47 draft picks? I don't know how that happened.
It does feel like they had
every time I turn around, Eagles are on the board. The pick is in, the Eagles. How they do that shit?
They're a very transactional team. They do a lot of small trades, and that's how they end up with a lot of those later picks.
Yeah, but didn't they have 2 first-round picks?
Yeah. Who did they trade? That was they traded. Well, they got a first-round pick. Didn't they get a first-round pick with the Carson Wentz trade?
That probably was.
Oh yeah, they probably did.
Yeah, so they've done a lot of moves and a lot of smaller moves. That's how they end up. Or when they trade, if they trade a player away, they'll do what Kansas City does, right? We'll swap 4th-round picks back, so you don't lose your total amount of picks, but you're just shifting your spot around.
Yeah, I was thinking about us, and the last 3 years we've had no less than 9 draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, okay, how the hell did they end up with all these draft picks? But again, I know you're right. I mean, it's just kind of part of how it goes. But it just seemed like every time I turn around, they're on the clock. I'm thinking, what the fuck? And they grabbed every player from Georgia. I don't think there's a player left on. I mean, there's not a player left in the draft that didn't go to them. So from Georgia anyway. So I was like, what the hell? But
yeah, they got a good program, man.
They do.
It's like
there's no doubt.
It's like Alabama, man. It's like a couple, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, everybody wanted everybody off of Alabama because they had the biggest and fastest and the nastiest defense, and just running backs especially. And the thing is that with bringing guys like that to the NFL from the SEC, is that you're going to get a tested commodity because literally it's littered with NFL players. So that, I mean, you got to take advantage. Because I'm going to tell you like this: I wouldn't be mad if the Chiefs would have did that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
Am I kind of pissed off that the Eagles got 2? Hell yeah, because I'm like, damn, how did y'all add 2? Quality really should have been top 20 players. Saying in the draft in the first round, but it's just opportunity was there. They made a draft. They got them an additional first-round pick, so everything just kind of fell into place because no one thought that Nolan Smith was going to fall to that far, but he did. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's got to have some luck into it too. But at the same time, I look at the Chiefs in the same way that they've gotten lucky, maybe not so much in the draft, but man, they're sure in the hell got lucky that they haven't had any like really massive injuries. They really lucky that they haven't had any of the significant key pieces besides Tyreek Hill leaving free agency of the last 3-4 years. So I think right now the Chiefs are in a good place. And yes, they have a lot of foes coming up that are going to be, very, good and very equipped to be able to go toe-to-toe with the Chiefs. But I still think at the end of the day, the deciding factor is Mahomes. And I think with the addition of the 2 tackles, and I keep telling people, if Wiley – gave up 50% of your pressures or whatever you were telling me, JP. If he gave up that many pressures, now you got Juwan over there. And even if Devin is on the left side and he's a little bit better than Orlando Brown Jr., that's still better from both sides than what we had last year. So that tells me Mahomes is going to have more time to pass. And obviously from what it's looking like is that he could potentially have more weapons to throw to as well, because you got 3 guys that are going to be in the system longer. Plus, you're adding a couple new pieces that, from the Giants. Then you got the Justin Ross hype train. You know what I'm saying? So there's things I think the Chiefs I know I get some of the cue, but I think there's things the Chiefs have done in the offseason that are below the radar moves that are going to equip them to be successful on the offensive and defensive side of the ball.
And everybody that's complaining about Rice, you might as well stop. Because that dude, I got a feeling, is going to just show up and show out. And Quentin, I know you're not on the Ross train yet, but
yes.
You will be. You will be.
I just don't think
by week three, he's gonna make some fucking crazy ass catch, and then Quentin's gonna eat his words.
That's fine. I would love to eat those words. I just don't think it's fair to have an expectation that somebody who hasn't performed since they were in college to come out and all of a sudden be, that guy here in Kansas City. And then the other Ross, right? He's just bounced around from roster to roster. And
because he didn't fit
also expect him to come up
another.
And to be, that guy. So
he didn't have to be, though. See, that's what you got to realize is that Ross is not going to have to be the guy. They're going to, I believe, in my opinion, they're going to bring him along like they did Kadarius Toney. They're going to give him a set amount of plays. He's going to be on the snap count because he has a really critical injury history. He hasn't been able to play a lot of football the last couple of years. He's going to have a very small package, and they're going to slowly progress him through the season. And I believe, just like the cornerbacks from last year, the rookies, that as the season goes along, he'll continue to progress as long as he stays healthy. And I think he will stay healthy because his snap count and his availability to be hurt will be reduced, and then the confidence will grow. And then at the same time, you got to remember, he's growing, but all your other receivers are growing too, like Sky Moore and Toney. They were not really big parts of the picture last year in regards of the passing game. Toney had the big punt return and he had the touchdown reception, but really he was like a 1 or 2 maybe reception game.
Thank you. You get the Taco Bell twice because you're 100% right. Look, man, I got a feeling. And I guess it's just because I've watched Veach do this for 3 years now. Every time he brings somebody in, a group of guys, whether it be, you can't really put Cornell Powell in that mix. It was a draft pick that just didn't work out.
Yeah.
But there's fitments within everything. John Ross has bounced around. Yeah, he's bounced around because he didn't fit within the system. That happens to a lot of players. We've picked up guys that didn't fit within systems. Fucking Harrison Butker was on a practice squad. Charvarius Ward, where was he at?
Practice
squad.
Cowboys.
So we could say that all day long, but that's the one thing Veach is a master of, and Andy is a master of, is finding guys that fit within our system. They're not going to hang on to him, and they signed him with an injury. So they truly believe he's going to fit within our system. They actually have him under contract. So I feel like he's got something that nobody else, well, maybe Quentin can't see. Everybody else
I can
does.
see the speed. I just don't know how much that translates to on the field. I just don't know how is his body going to hold up? I know he's had significant foot issues, a lot of foot injuries. You know who else had a lot of foot injuries and was really fast? Sammy Watkins. But you know what? Sammy Watkins is bigger than him. So he can
Sammy Watkins didn't have foot injuries. He had
he did.
thigh injuries. He had calf injuries.
He had foot problems. That's why he ended up coming off of Buffalo, is because he shattered his foot.
Yeah, but that was only at Buffalo. He didn't have that problem with us. The 4 years he was with us, he didn't have a foot problem. It was all soft injury issues and hamstring and shit like that, because he was sorry, but Sammy didn't work out. He just didn't. He was just one of those guys that just had great route running abilities, and he was fucking fast. But he didn't. He wasn't.
He won a Super Bowl here, and he was a big part of that Super Bowl win.
I'm not saying he wasn't, but I'm just saying he didn't.
Look, it goes back to the training staff, man.
It does.
Yeah, because I guarantee you, and I wasn't in the room, but I guarantee you the training staff went to him and was like, dude, do you really want to be a legitimate, big time wide receiver in the NFL? Give us the opportunity, train with us. You won't have the same injuries. And he bought into it. And that's the thing. If you can get him to buy into it, that's like, Ross. If Ross bought into the program, which it appears he did, and he stayed the whole offseason and worked out with the training staff since last year all the way up to now, then he's going to shine, because I think his body's going to be prepared. And I think that's the biggest jump for a lot of these kids going from college to the NFL, is that they're not prepared. They're not prepared to make that jump physically.
Tommy's getting that insider shit right now, people. So don't worry about it.
Yeah. Trying to put it on mute, man. I'm like, oh, hit mute.
All right, real quick. Anybody out there that has, issues down below, or maybe just a real disgusting beard that you can't get rid of, or you need some cologne to cover up the stink, or you need some body wash, you need to really consider Manscaped. If you look anything at all, like, some of the pictures that we've shown, we've shown you guys everything. You know what it looks like. It's not pretty. Manscaped.com. There you are. If you look like that, you need to go to manscaped.com, type in the word Chiefs Focus under the promo code, and get 20% off your order. I'm telling you now, it's one of the best things you can do for yourself. They have cologne, they have beard, they have shampoo, they have body wash, they have everything you need, plus you can trim up your shit. If you're a big, hairy back-ass guy and somebody's got to take a curling iron to it, it's time to trim that shit. That's what this is for. They even have deodorant for your body, deodorant for your balls. Your balls will thank you. So will your significant other. I am not going to make a commercial about this like most people do, because they sent us the product and I used it. It's absolutely phenomenal. You can't go wrong. And they have the most comfortable fucking boxers I've ever worn. So do yourself a favor. Go to manscaped.com right now. Order something. Try it out. Type in the word Chiefs Focus. You can use it multiple times. When you do, send us the receipt via DM, and we will enter you in for the Manscaped 4.0 kit. This is what's staring you in the face right now. That is about $179 kit you'll get for free. make sure you go there and check it out. We appreciate them for sponsoring our show, and your balls will thank you. With that being said, let's move forward. What do you got, Quentin? What's your complaint about our wide receivers right now? Because I know you got one.
Well, I mean, of course, I guess, I can complain. Like,
oh, you're good at it.
I can complain.
Oh, you're the best.
I'm just more interested to see, where the depth chart goes. I'm excited to see what Nico Romingo, that undrafted free agent, we talked about him.
Yes.
A few weeks ago, last week, I don't know. It's all starting to blend together.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what he can bring to the table. I think if he makes the team, he's our punt returner. That to me is going to be one thing, is who you're going to have as your punt and kick returner. I do not think that you could have Isaiah Pacheco as your number one running back all year and your kick returner. I don't think that's feasible. So you're going to need to give somebody that role. I don't think that you can claim that you're going to have your number one wide receiver is also going to be your punt returner, right? We saw when Tyreek Hill started to become the number one receiver on this team, he stopped returning punts. That no longer became his job, and they shifted it to somebody else. So for Kadarius Toney, the Chiefs consistently have hyped him up about being the number one guy and about all the different things he can do. If that's true and that's how you use him, I don't think you can use him on punt returners. So for me, the wide receiver room sort of becomes, who's that guy that isn't going to get a ton of snaps, but can, find a way to impact the game in the special teams room, specifically on returns. And I'm not sure exactly who that guy is going to be yet. I don't know. I know Rice at college, he did some punt returns, but I don't know if he did anything on kickoff returns. So that to me is a question that I don't know if we're going to get answered really anytime soon.
Oh, by the way, I just want to get this out here really quick. Caleb has been sick for the last few days, but he did want me to tell Quentin to quit complaining and smile every once in a while. He texted me, he called me today. I couldn't barely understand him, but I did get that out of him. He said, tell Quentin to smile every once in a while, stop complaining. You got a good football team. Just wanted to spit that out there. What was you saying, Tommy?
And my allergies are kicking my butt. Now, I think it's easier for the Chiefs to find a kick returner than it is a punt returner. Personally, I think a lot of people from high school on up have done kick returning, but punt returner, it's kind of like being the center fielder. You got to be able to judge the ball a little bit better. You got to be able to, catch it on the run, be able to be directional. Once you get it, if you think about kick return, basic kick return, even if they kick it to one side, you're already kind of pre-playing. The ball's coming to you. You make one cut and go. Where as you see Kadarius Toney, it was playing to go a whole different direction, but he had that ability to make people miss, to be able to shift when you don't have a lot of blocking around you. And that's the difference. When kickoff comes, you have blockers in front of you. When punting comes, when you do a punt return, you may have some blocking, but it's not going to be set up as kickoff. So you got to be able to make somebody move. But first of all, you have to be able to field it. And that's the hardest thing to do, I think, in NFL in regards to special teams is punt return. So I think you can plug in another running back, at back to the return kicks, or, say another receiver or something like that, somebody that's like, a backup person, or, that they basically do special teams as they're fast. But as you see last year with Scott Moore, I mean, you got to have somebody back there that's going to be consistent. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they tried Scott Moore out again, because he did have a little bit of success in the biggest game on the biggest stage. But, there's still doubts. I know, at least from a fan perspective, that he can do it. And he's going to have to prove it by doing it over and over again.
I would be okay with Sky Moore being the punt returner. You have more time to work on it. I do think that some of that towards the end, and I know he talked about this a little bit. Sky Moore talked about just the confidence level. He sort of lost confidence in himself. After you fumbled a couple times, you're just like, God damn, how can I not do this?
Exactly.
And so when you're able to perform on the stage and you have an off season to work on it, you're no longer spending part of your off season looking for a house, or, where the grocery store is, or where the nearest, CVS or Walgreens is, right? You're sort of settled in. I do think you can just focus more on your craft, and that you're not going to get cut off this team, right? You're on this team. So I do think that if that's the way the Chiefs decide to go, I'd be okay with it. I trust that he's going to continue to get better as he gets more and more practice at it.
I'm not. I mean, I wouldn't be hurt if Sky Moore was back there doing it. I don't know if he will be. I think they're.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't either, but I don't know if he will be. They may just go with a rookie, and that would understand, especially somebody that has a lot of experience at it. But and also, I think they want to use him more in the passing game. I mean, he did really well in the passing game. He, when he did fumble that ball, it was the first or second one, Andy went right back to him, and Mahomes went right back to him, and he snagged a beautiful pass, a hard ball to catch, and he snagged it. I think it was about for 35 yards. So, I wouldn't be hurt if he was back there doing it because, hey, man, he's picking it up. Everybody rode the shit out of him, for the entire season, basically. Get him off the fucking field. He shouldn't be playing football. Cut him, all this other shit. Fuck, man. I mean, nobody gives anybody a break in this town anymore, man. We're turning into the Eagles. I mean, damn. Why don't we just move to Philadelphia and kick people in the nuts walking down the street for no reason? I mean, fuck. No reason for all that, man. I mean, these guys are young, they're new. He never returned a damn ball in his life, kick or punt. So,
well, the talent's there, and I think that's what the Chiefs and most people see. And I think the reason why, I mean, there will only be one reason, I think, and I don't think it's a good reason, but it only be one reason I think they would keep him from back there doing it is if they want him to focus more on receiving. But to that point, though, you get him more involved if he's doing punt returns too, because he's not the number one receiver. But you give him more chance to put his hands on the ball, to use his athletic ability to make plays, and that's what you want. You want to put him in the best position to be successful. And if you look at a lot of the passes that he did catch, though, it was none of them. I don't think any of them were really long routes. They were, mid-tier to maybe, short routes where they can get the ball in his hands and let him do what he does, which is he breaks tackles and he makes plays. And that's what you want him to do. So if you think about it, you put him in a punt return situation, that would be excellent because once he gets the part down where he can receive the ball, once he gets moving, he gets that confidence, he's going to be hard to break, to bring down. Just like, what's his name, Rashee Rice. He's the same way, man. I keep watching more and more tape on him. It's not a ton out there on YouTube, but there's some. And, I don't think that the quarterback that was throwing to him was particularly that good because, he would be out in front of the receiver, but he would have to slow down a lot to catch the ball. People talk about his separation. But when you're running the route and you beat your receiver or you beat your defensive back and your quarterback doesn't lead you down the field to catch the ball and you got to stop to go back and get it, then you're going to look like you're not creating separation. But if you look at some of the tape where he actually was doing longer routes and he was running, he actually was having to wait on the ball. So I think he's going to be good.
Extremely athletic receiver.
Man, he's good.
He can high point the ball. He's got a great jump to him. So I know Kansas City doesn't utilize that jump ball a lot or that 50-50 ball a lot, but that ability is there.
They might be now with him.
Yeah, I did like, after they drafted him and we looked into him a little bit more, I do think that there is a lot there. I do think that he's not a perfect prospect, right? Obviously, if he was, he would have gone in the first round and much earlier. There wasn't a lot of depth in terms of the wide receiver room, right? There was a lot of okay guys. There wasn't a lot of great or good. So, I do think that he has a valuable spot in this roster. I'll be interested to see depth chart wise where they play him when training camp starts. Do they put him with the ones immediately or do they still prioritize someone like Sky Moore beforehand? Because there's a lot of snaps to go around, right? Juju Smith-Schuster was a significant player on this team, and MVS, I don't see him getting any more snaps than he did last year. So I think he has a role and he's going to stick into it. So there's a lot of snaps and a lot of catches and yards to go around when the season starts back up.
Well, the way he attacks the game and the way he attacks just his mentality is just an attack. I think he's going to prove all these doubters and these haters wrong, that were pissed that we picked him. I don't know why they were mad. But honestly, I didn't even think we were going to get one that early in the draft. And I don't think any of us thought that. We figured it was going to be a late, if they were going to go after a wide receiver, it was going to be late in the draft.
Yeah.
And
but doesn't feel like he just like Veach just did the same thing he does with the cornerbacks. He went to the mid rounds and he found somebody that wasn't probably on a lot of people's list, and he snatched him out of there. The only difference is this time he got to work out with Mahomes, so he got to get some feedback firsthand of what the talent was. And I still compare him a lot to Juju Smith-Schuster. I think he's just more athletic. I think he's like an inch shorter. And maybe Juju's like 6'2". I think he's 6'1" or something like that. But the hands and the athletic ability to go up and grab contested passes is what Juju was able to do as well. Juju had a couple fumbles or what, but most time Juju was solid, man. He got his hands on the ball, usually caught the ball. And I think this guy will do the same thing. And the reason why I really think Veach wouldn't got him, because he saw how important it was to have somebody opposite Travis Kelce. And I think that's what he's going to be groomed for, is that role that Juju was in. I think that's where they're going to put him at. They're going to have a package for him, and I think that's what they're going to groom him for his first couple of years until they find a true number one wide receiver. So I think Kadarius Toney he'll be labeled number one, but Kadarius Toney is a big play type, receiver. He's something that you get the ball in his hands and you never know. He might go all the way, but I don't think he's a 10 to 12 catch a game person. I think you're still searching for that. I think next year in the draft, you go find your other offensive tackle, and then hopefully the receiver draft is big enough or deep enough that you can get another, what I would say, sizable receiver that can stretch the field.
Well, the one thing about Toney, I don't think anybody really knows what his abilities are yet, because he was with the Giants. He didn't do a whole lot there. He did have his injury issues there. With us, to me, what he looks like, and I could be completely wrong, but he looks like he's a mix between a gadget player and a deep threat. He's that guy that runs phenomenal routes, can juke everybody. He's just a juking machine. Kind of reminds me I think I even referenced him as the joystick 2.0. The dude just is I don't know, brother. That guy, I feel like he has the ability to do pretty much anything you want him to do and you ask him to do.
He's the most dynamic out of all your receivers. He is
absolutely right now.
His footwork is like, if you think about, remember when he got hurt because he was cutting so hard. But that's just who he is, and his ability to do that.
That's what's scary.
Unlike other people. Yeah, that is what's scary. But who else can do that? Besides Dante Hall, I've never seen somebody can do that. Dante was a little bit more controlled with his, so I think that's the difference. Dante could do it just as fast, but his was just so much smoother. It wasn't so violent.
Yeah, and I think Toney will calm down a little bit and get that finesse as he gets more playtime. He didn't have a whole lot of playtime in New York, and he had some really more playtime with us than he did in New York completely, but give him a little bit of time, and I think that finesse will come, and he's going to surprise a lot of people. I think he's going to be one of those guys.
Petition the Chiefs to put Dante Hall in the Ring of Honor, because this is.
He should be in the Ring of Honor. I don't know what the hell is going on with that. That's just, to me, it's insane that he's not up there. He absolutely should be in the Ring of Honor.
Go look up his highlights on YouTube, and he's got it's like the 7 or 9, the greatest 7 or 9 game stretch of returns. Maybe it's 11 games in the history.
I got to watch him, dude. It was the best thing ever to sit and watch those returns and go, "What the fuck did he just do?" That one against Denver, I think it was Denver. Was it Denver?
Yeah, where he jukes out the entire team by the end.
It was the most fucking phenomenal thing, and I think I picked my jaw up off the floor after he did that, because he was. He ran about 45, 50 yards in the backfield, getting away from people, and just juked everybody. It ended up being like a 97-yard return because of where he caught the ball at.
Yeah.
I was just blown away, but that wasn't the first time he had done something like that, and it wasn't the last time he had done something like that. It wasn't to that extent, but he was able to do things that no one else could do. So, hey, I got something for you really quick, and I'm going to shout out to my boy Bo Jackson. I have to do this because he doesn't play baseball anymore and probably won't kick my ass.
I don't know about that.
Not anymore. Hey, we're friends. We're friends, man. We're friends. So Bo's had a sneezing issue. Or I'm sorry, hiccups.
I thought it was hiccups.
Hiccups. And he's tried everything. Poor Bo's tried everything to get rid of these fucking hiccups. Been going on a year. Well, the new thing that someone told him to do was sniff the ass of a porcupine. And he did it. Apparently, if you sniff the ass of a porcupine, it can cure hiccups.
Sure.
Well, he tried it.
Didn't work.
He's got to have a medical procedure now. It's not because of the sniffing of the ass. It was because it didn't get rid of the hiccups. And he has tried everything else. My boy Bo, love you to death. Don't sniff any more asses to try to get rid of those things, man. It's just not going to work out. Nothing is going to work. I don't know what the hell's up a porcupine's ass that would get rid of that, but it didn't work for you. Had to bring that up because I thought it was comical.
Look, if you ever watch the 30 for 30, watch the one on Bo Jackson. It is amazing.
I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it.
Have you seen it?
I told this story.
Yeah, I can't believe that he was able to play both sports at such a high level during the same time frame. I mean, I think
it was insane.
Honestly, I think that if he would have chose one sport or the other, I think we'd be talking about Bo Jackson as like a Hall of Famer 100% in one or the other, whether he chose baseball or football. But I think because he played both, I think because he played both, it destroyed his body because he just had no time to recover from the sports.
Yeah.
You know, I think he just put his body through so much. And I mean, I don't blame the guy. I mean, when you can play both things at such a high level, I mean, go ahead and do it, you know? But when you're playing both of those sports at once, especially going from football, which obviously is a high contact sport, and my guy did not run away from anything. And then you go into baseball where it's stop and go, especially playing the outfield the way he did. I think, yeah, that definitely, my non-medical opinion is that's what caused that hip injury and why he was never able to pick up a bat or run the ball again.
Well, I'll tell you quick. I've told this story before, and I'll tell it really quick. So I was down for a relief game, and Bo was in playing. I want to say it was top of the third inning, bottom of the third inning. He was in the outfield. He had already hit one home run, if I'm not mistaken. He was playing far right. If I'm not mistaken, I've got to remember this. Far right field. Ball was hit to left center. Center fielder was way back. Left fielder was way up. Bo just took off running. Just running hard. Dove out, stuck his arm out like this, landed, caught the fucking ball, landed on his ribs, stood up, and threw a motherfucker out at home. Okay? Threw him out at home. Comes back in like nothing was wrong, right? He gets up there. I want to say he hit 3 home runs in that game. 2 more after that with broken ribs. He broke his fucking ribs when he landed and still hit 2 home runs after the fact. The man was a motherfucking beast. I'm telling you, I never met anybody like him, and I don't think I ever will again.
This was something else, though.
One of the things he did,
professional baseball, the only person in professional sports history to make it to the league, play in the league with an artificial hip.
Yeah.
Bro, the man had an artificial hip,
yes,
bro.
He did.
What?
Yes, he did. And I'll tell you one other thing he did, man. I'll never forget it. So he's in the dugout. Bo had 2 swings. It was either over the fence or he struck out. There was no intermediate usually for Bo. When he struck out, he got really pissed off. You didn't talk to Bo before a game, 3 hours, and you didn't talk to him during the game. Ask George Brett. But regardless, he struck out, pissed off, walks in, snaps a bat over his knee, goes up again, strikes out, snaps another bat over. Well, it's over his thigh. I think it was Hauser said, you only get 10 bats. You might want to kind of conserve those. This fucking guy grabs one off the rack and says, wham, and snapped that bitch over his head, threw it on the ground like toothpicks, and walked straight down the fucking tunnel. And I went, ouch.
That's amazing.
I'm like, okay, this dude, he's just not right. He was a freak of nature that I don't think anybody, he was the nicest person in the world off field. You just didn't talk to him when he was playing. That motherfucker was more laser focused than anybody had ever seen. He was just right here. And George Brett found out not to fuck with him.
Yeah.
George thought he could fuck with anybody. Found out now he couldn't do it with him. Oh, yeah. Bo just looked at him. That's all he did was look at him. George sat at the other end of the fucking dugout for the rest of the time he played there. Just telling you now, man. I mean, so, yeah, Bo was a different guy, brother. I mean, coolest motherfucker in the world. But, man, I'll tell you what, focused. Straight up focused. Anyway, got a little off track there talking about Bo, but I had to bring that up because it was comical. And, we're not in the same state anymore, so I'm not too worried about him coming and finding me. But, he, I don't know, man. I guess, if it got to try anything to get rid of the hiccups. You're going to sniff a porcupine's ass. Now, I don't know if that thing's alive, but they got like 3,000 or 30,000 of those needles that shoot off of them at any point in time. So I don't know if, if you got stabbed at one of them or not, but sniffing that ass, trying to get rid of the hiccups.
And help but, hey, what do you guys think about this defensive line? Because I don't think we talked enough about it. I still have some concerns about the rotation, of the defensive line. I don't think it's talked about enough. I think all the emphasis, and rightfully so, because your biggest commodity is on the offensive line. But the defensive line worries me a lot right now.
Well, I would say that there's going to be another veteran pass rusher signed. I don't know if it's going to be Frank Clark. I don't know if it's going to be Carlos Dunlap, or maybe it's Robert Quinn. I'm not sure who it's going to be, but Kansas City's adding a veteran pass rusher to this line. So I can't be too down on it, despite what the name that JP changed my tagline as. I can't be too down on it. Yeah, Yannick Ngakoue could be one. I can't be too down on it because I do think that George Karlaftis is going to be better. We saw his improvement throughout the year. He continued to get better. And look, you've got Felix here, who I was hoping that they would get. When he was still on the board at about 24, Caleb and I looked at each other and we had that moment. It was like, oh shit, he's still on the board. And I saw him a lot at what he did at K-State, and I think there's a lot of potential there. And, he's coming into a line that's better than probably what it was last year when George Karlaftis got here. So I think there's less pressure on his plate than probably was at Karlaftis, because last offseason we needed Karlaftis to come in and be productive. And while we still need Felix to come in and be productive, I think that there's less. I think we don't need him as much as we needed George. So
what about the D tackles though, specific? Because edge rusher, I think they'll figure out a rotation just like they've done the last couple of years. But I think losing Colin Saunders was huge, and I don't think that Tershon Borton, even though I think he was wasn't he a camp invite that made the team, undrafted free agent? I think Borton was.
He's the one that came from Missouri S&T, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. He was an invite.
So which he's done good to make the team and actually get playing time in his first year and then hurt last year. But the problem with that though is that you drafted one guy, right, and he's 300 and something pounds, but I think the hardest position to come in and figure out in the league on defense is defensive tackle as a rookie, because you're going against the best offensive linemen, which are pretty much all like all-American wrestlers anyway. But, what are you going to do? But what are you going to do in that regards? Because there's not a lot out there of quality D tackles. It's just not, because there's so.
You got Danny Shelton, bro.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, one, you have Chris Jones lining up next to you, so your job is automatically easier. And two, JP's man crush is still on the roster. So
yes, he is.
There.
He's my.
Where'd he come from? Has he played? I don't think I've heard of him.
He didn't play. He didn't play for us.
He was on the practice squad.
Yeah, he was on our practice squad last year, which I didn't understand why he stayed on the practice squad as long as he did, but whatever. He's a monster. He's fast. I've said this before. I'll say it again. The fucker takes up 2 roster spots. He's a big ass dude.
He's that big?
He's a fucking dude. I think he's got like a 70-inch shoulder span. It's insane. It's like he's got like Lurch shoulders, bro. It's just whack.
When I was up at camp, you should have seen the shoulder pads they gave him because they were too small. So it was like fat guy in a little coat. Those shoulder pads did not do him any. They did not do him any help, or maybe it did help him because the whole point was for him to look like a giant.
We brought him in from. He was Where did we bring him in from? Was it Carolina that he was playing for?
North Carolina?
No, Carolina. He's not a draft pick.
The Panthers. The Panthers.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think it was Carolina, but I could be wrong. But I want to say it was Carolina. Anyway, the dude is a monster.
I mean, he's like 340 pounds.
Yeah, and fast.
So he's a run stopper too then.
Oh, hell yeah, he is.
He's a gap eater.
He's a gap eater, dude. There is no gap.
So
you can't put dental floss between that shit. Because I think Veach, I don't know what the hell. I know he was injured.
Unless you're trying to hide him.
Well, no, he was injured at the beginning when we brought him into the practice, into the squad. But, going towards the end of the middle of the season, into the season, he actually got a little frustrated and wanted to be traded because he wanted to play. Right. But Andy talked to him and said, hey, you know what? Yeah, he played with the Giants. That's right, Philip. Here, thank you. Laz played with the Giants. He played with Coach Daly in New England. Okay, that's right. I think he just realized that he didn't need him right off the bat. And he wanted to see what he could do with what he had. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to get him healthy for this year. But now he's actually slated as a starter.
Yeah, he was rated as...
He's number one on the depth chart.
What? Yeah, he was right behind Chris Jones.
Right behind Chris Jones.
Okay, so now I feel a little bit better. So I didn't know this. Now I feel a little bit better.
Look his ass up. Look him up, man. Because the picture is way bigger than a normal picture that they take. And they zoom that shit out. I mean, they zoom it way out because he's a big man. I've been waiting for him to see the field, and thank God he's going to. Yeah, you're right, guys. He did come from the Giants. We seem to get a lot of players from the Giants that are just good.
Oh, he's a big Samoan guy.
He's a monster, dude.
He's huge. I mean, he's 340 pounds. I want to say he's like 6'3", something like that. He's not like super tall, but he just if you see the way he plays, like
Chris Jones is.
He's real big. He does a good job eating up gaps. I mean, I think you should be, if he ends up playing, I don't think that's any detriment on the other guys in the depth chart. I just don't think last year he had a ton of opportunity because he was sort of shoved towards the back of the depth chart. And you had other role guys already on this team, like Derek Nottie and Colin Saunders. So there just wasn't a ton of room for him. This year, I think with some of those guys gone, I think he has an opportunity to play. And I want to say he's only like 29, maybe he turns 30 before the season.
I think he's 28.
So he's still pretty young. Yeah, I'll be excited if he makes the field.
It could have just taken a year to make his shoulder pads and a uniform and shit.
Maybe, yeah, that was it. I'm telling you, the shoulder pads they gave him were way too small. I mean, he was out there like waddling with how small those bad boys were.
I can't wait to see him play.
A lot better.
Yeah, I can't wait to see him play. But yeah, he's a big dude. Did we pick
up another cornerback too? I thought I saw that too. We signed another cornerback, I
thought. We brought one in.
This is the season of micro adjustments.
It is.
And it's only going to get and here in a couple of weeks post June 1, it's only going to continue to happen as veterans get cut. Kansas City will sign a group of people. So that's just the way without having, essentially you don't really have a roster cap at this point. So you can bring in pretty much anybody and everybody that you want.
Absolutely.
You think the little cornerback is going to play? What we get him in the 7th round?
What the hell's his name? I know who you're talking about. I can't think of his name right now.
He looks fast, dude.
Is it Nick Jones? No. What's the dude's name? Quentin.
I don't know who you're.
The 7th round quarterback we picked up.
Yeah, I want to say it was like Alabama A&T, but that's not it. It was some small school he's out of.
Nick Jones was the 250th pick.
That's him.
Okay.
That's him. Nick Jones, that's what I said, yeah. Yeah, he's a corner.
And where's he out of?
I don't remember.
Ball State.
Yeah, Ball State.
Ball State, yeah. Nowhere close with the college, but yeah,
he's going to be on. He's going to be on the practice squad, if any. I mean, on the well, no, I can't even say. He may be on special teams, but
I was going to say maybe he's the kick returner.
He might be.
I don't know his kick return experience, but maybe he's the guy. I will be interested to see what they do because depending on who they put back there, I really think that says a lot about what they think about the rest of the crew. I'm still cheering for Prince. The running back, the undrafted free agent running back to make this roster.
We're high on his ass.
I'm feeling good about him too. Just seeing what he's done. The reports that came out last week, post rookie minicamp, the film that you can see, and there's a real spot on the roster. Right, we're starting to get into the number game season, where there's going to be a lot of guy that Kansas City just lets walk, or tries to sneak on the practice squad, just because they don't have enough spots on the 53-man roster.
Yeah.
With the running back position, right now you have 3 spots filled. Without having a fullback on the roster, you can justify having 4 guys. So I think he slides into that 4th spot. And by the end of the year, I can almost guarantee you he will be seeing significant snaps.
Okay, my question is this, because I've been posed this question a few times, or it's been posed to me. Do you think they're going to go with more than 5 or 6 wide receivers? Do you think this is the year they actually go to 7 wide receivers? Active.
I know they go. I know they go 6 for sure. I think they go 6 for sure, without a doubt.
Well, how many tight ends do you think they go with then?
Well,
see, and I think because they went, what they go 4 last year, 4 tight ends.
They went 4 last year, but I don't think Blake Bell makes it through training camp.
Yeah, I think they go 3 this year. I think they go.
I do too.
Tight ends this year.
Yep.
Because I mean, because tight end is more of a proven commodity, where your receiving core is not. So
are you counting Jody Fortson as a tight end or a wide receiver?
Tight end.
Tight end.
Okay.
So I think the odd man out is Blake Bell.
Yeah, because they didn't draft a tight end, which was kind of weird because
they wanted to
positions that we thought that they would go after.
Well, they wanted to. They just didn't get the one they wanted. And the time
that Travis getting old, they like, look, we're gonna have to bring somebody else in here to get.
Well, I think what they wanted was they wanted somebody that was Travis-esque, Kelsey-esque, and have him groom them up, and it didn't work out. So
Travis Kelce is Salvador Perez. He'll never age. He'll be on the roster until he's 105 years old.
Hey, man, the guy.
Hey, we had a winning homestand. Yay!
Oh, I'll be happy as hell. I don't care how long he stays. I know he said that at one point he told my cousin worked for ESPN. He wanted to play until he was 38. So if he plays until he's 38.
Didn't Witten play to about then? Jason Witten, didn't he play to like 37? Something like that.
Jason Witten was almost 40.
He's almost 40.
That man was farting dust out there playing football.
Hey, some of the greatest tight ends of all time had a long career.
Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gates.
Antonio Gates came back out of retirement like twice because they couldn't find somebody. Remember,
you know why he came out of retirement the first time? Was just to beat Tony Gonzalez's record, touchdown record. The only reason why he came out, because he wanted to beat that record.
Hey, he was good, man. He was that dude was so big. That was a huge tight end.
He's sore as hell. He's sore.
Oh yeah.
He's just beat up now, man. I mean,
well, look at Gronk, man. Gronk is like, he still ain't that old, and his body is tore the hell up. Man.
Yeah,
so's his mind.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Guy's got scrambled eggs for brains.
Damn, I can't believe you can't lose.
Mosh pit for 10 years.
Huh?
I said you can't lose what you didn't have.
But his brother flat out told me, "You're right." His brother flat out told me that he's always been that way. It just got worse when he got hit a bunch. Well, he was on that show with Michael Strahan. Is it The Pyramid? Where you have is it The Pyramid where you have like you're the celebrity and you have somebody you're playing for? Michael Strahan hosts it. I think it's called The Pyramid. Gronk was on there and Edelman was on there. And they said words that start with the letter C. That was one of the things up on the board, and Gronk said cat. And I mean letter K. I'm sorry, letter K. And Gronk said cat. And Edelman turned around and looked at him. Strahan's behind the podium crying. The little contestant was with him, was like, "The fuck did you just say?" And he goes,
he meant Kit Kat.
You know? It's a woman's name too. That his words, and Strahan's crying, man. He's just wiping tears like this, I'm like, this motherfucker just said that. But his brother told me a long time ago he just wasn't all there. He can read a playbook really well, understands his routes, but
did you remember on New Heights when he was talking about it his rookie year, and they were like, "Yeah, go hit Wilfork."
Yeah.
He's like, they had to tell him, man. He goes, I come flying down the line to hit him. He said, Wilfork just turned that to me. Crazy, dude.
Well, did you notice when he was on the show, when he was on New Heights, Travis would say something funny as hell, and then Jason would pop off and say something funny, and Gronk would just sit there with this blank-ass look on his face like he didn't get it. And then after they started talking about something else, he just busted out laughing. It just dawned on him what they were talking about in the prior segment. I was like, wow, man, this poor motherfucker. But he bought into his brothers. Chris has got a fitness line, and he's got a really cool shaker cup for like protein drinks and shit like that. It's powered. Chris is the smart one out of the bunch, out of all of them. But his business is doing pretty good. Gronk bought into that. He ain't never going to hurt for anything. His mom's been taking care of him. The one thing I can say about him,
they're going to be paid their whole life.
Well, the good thing I can say his mom did for him, his entire NFL career. Mm-hmm. He never touched his NFL money. He lived only off endorsements. And his mom made him do that.
That's smart.
She said, your NFL checks, put them away. Live off your endorsements. You got enough money coming there.
Yeah.
He didn't have a, $50 million house sitting somewhere. He had a nice house in New England. I mean, it wasn't like crazy big. I think it was a 5-bedroom house. It wasn't nothing nuts. But he did it the right way. So he's going to be set the rest of his life. Yeah.
That's
anyway.
That's what's wrong with a lot of these players, man. They go out there and blow that money, man. And it's funny because they don't show it anymore, but they used to have the segment on ESPN when Herm Edwards would talk to all the incoming rookies about, about your money and, hey, nothing good happens past 12 and all that stuff. And the reason why it's good because you got people there that have done what you're about to do, and they're trying to prevent you from making the same mistakes, which is what you want. And, some of these guys, though, it doesn't matter, man. It's hard, to take a kid that had a certain lifestyle and changing. That's why I keep telling people, man, people don't understand that it's important for parents to step up in this country and teach their kids right from wrong and how to manage themselves, because you got kids out here that don't get that, but they have the best talent in the world. Henry Ruggs III. Look at him.
I was getting ready to say, just ask Las Vegas.
Yeah.
It's just sad to see. So hopefully, some of these kids coming up, and it's a different generation now. So hopefully, a lot of them are starting to take, what they have not for granted and start to realize that they do have an opportunity in this lifetime that most people will never even sniff. So
yeah, it's a dream come true. And look, man, the one thing that I do know is that teams are starting to model themselves after what the Chiefs do with their players, because Andy's got people set up with financial advisors. They go through classes about their money. He's always talking to them about what they need to do and not need to do. He's not preaching, but he's just giving them his insight.
Well, the council too. Ever since the murder suicide up there, I didn't realize how big of a counseling and mental health advocate the Chiefs have been to their players.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's major now. Like I think they were one of the first few teams after that situation took place to really.
That's when it started, right there.
Yeah. And they're like, we need to take this more serious. Which, I mean, you got to think though, the world wouldn't even, until probably 5 years ago, I don't think the whole world took mental illness as serious as it should be, because it's like a voodoo thing. People stay away from it. And now it's starting to come to the forefront, because, I mean, I can remember back, and I can't remember the guy's name, big old huge dude, used to play for the Bears, got on the plane, had mental illness, and was butt naked. And remember, and the guy was like, he goes, what do I do? He's like, they had to force the plane to go down, because they like, ain't like if this guy charges us, if we can do anything to stop him, we'd have to shoot him. Yeah, dude was like a beast, but he was mentally ill.
I can't remember his name, but I know exactly.
But you remember what I'm talking about?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's kind of good that the NFL's, we criticize the NFL so much for the things they get wrong, but sometimes through their trial and error, they do get some things right. And this is, I think, one of them.
Yeah, I agree. And Priest Holmes played a big part in that too. Priest Holmes, when he retired, he started studying NFL players from 1985 all the way through, I think it was 2009. And at that time, 78% of all NFL players had filed bankruptcy that played from 1985 to 2009.
Oh,
That group of guys, 78% of them had already filed bankruptcy, been divorced, lost all their money. Some were homeless. And he started mentoring a lot of young kids. And when these kids that came into the league, and it's amazing how much he does for kids. And I love Priest Holmes. He's a great guy. And he's been doing that ever since. And I'll tell you another guy that helped.
One of my favorite Chiefs. He's actually, I think the Priest Holmes article that's on the website is the first article I wrote.
It is. It's absolutely still up there.
Priest the Beast.
You know who else does that too? That helps a lot of these young kids. He's actually going to come on our show pretty soon. My brain's not working right. Derek Waylock. Oh, yeah. He helps a lot of these young kids. He helps a lot of players. He's got a nephew and a son that's both playing ball. I think, and he's going to come on our show pretty soon. So we'll get to talk to him about everything he does for the youth and how he keeps them grounded and things of that nature. I think it's awesome that he does that. So,
yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah,
so it's good to talk about the good things they do, man, because we criticize them a lot. And it's funny because we were watching Saturday, we were at home watching NFL drafts. We went on Friday. And my wife's like, why are they booing the commissioner? I said, it's like a rite of passage. It's like no matter if the commissioner.
It's every commissioner ever that's went up. So, yeah.
Hey, Roger Goodell wiped a booger on a little girl with cancer. So,
yeah.
You can look that video up. It happened.
It's actually true.
I know. You can look it up. It's on YouTube.
That's a Carl Peterson move, if anything is.
The story is that she survived cancer and was a Panthers fan, and she had to have either one of her legs or both her legs cut off, and she had a prosthetic and was on the stage ringing off. And you can see Roger Goodell clearly going, mining for gold, and then wiping it off.
And he found an ounce and wiped it on her jacket. So he left an ounce of nose gold
dude,
on
I'm
the poor girl's jacket.
Look it up. Everybody who's listening,
just go to YouTube. The last time I had to look at a booger situation was Chase Daniels, and I ain't recovered from that, man. I'm like, oh, damn, dude. I was like, that's nasty.
That was nasty, man.
I was like, I can't take this no more.
Yeah, that was nasty.
Some things you can't unsee, bro.
All right, before we wrap this up, let's do this. Give me your guys' year prediction. Looking at the schedule right now, I want to know what you think the Chiefs' record's going to be.
13-4. I'm gonna go 13-4.
Quentin,
man, I think 12-5. I think that's been a pretty consistent.
For who?
For the Chiefs, right? They've been right around that 12 wins for Kansas
13,
City.
14. The last time they won 12 games was in 2020.
Yeah, because what were they? How many wins did they have last? This is a spoiled conversation we're having right now. We're so spoiled at Kansas City.
Last year. Oh, yeah. Very spoiled. Kind of like us Jayhawk fans, man. We're spoiled.
Yeah. Very similar.
Okay, well, I'm gonna stick with what I called out last year, and I was right.
15-2. What'd you say? 14-3.
I said 14-3, and that's exactly what they ended up at. And I'm gonna say it again. They're gonna go 14-3, and have the number 1 seed.
Yeah, I think their schedule may be harder this year now that I looked at it because of the quality of teams that they play. So.
It is.
Who, did you say the Eagles? Q had the hardest schedule right now? Right
yeah, the Eagles with the win percentage of the teams. Now, obviously, that sort of thing changes immediately, right?
Yeah.
But just heading into this season, they've got. I think the win percentage is almost 600 for the teams that they faced. So.
I don't know how they have it ranked right now, the NFL does, but I know last year the Chiefs were ranked number 1 as far as the toughest strength of schedule. I don't know how they have it this year right now.
Yeah, I don't know how they have it ranked. I just know the Eagles, their opponents that they're facing combined have a winning percentage, which makes sense because their entire division, finished above 500 or at 500 for Washington.
The reason I picked 14-3 last year is because the year before when Pat was on that 20-0 kick, I thought, fuck it, he's going 20-0. It didn't work. It didn't happen. So I thought
nobody's going to go 20-0. It's not.
Philip said nasty. We were just talking about that booger shit. He said,
"Yeah, and I'm telling you, if you haven't seen it and you don't believe me, look it up because just like Google Roger Goodell wipes booger, and you'll find the video."
Oh my god!
So gross, so gross. But anyway, so we got 13-4, right? 14-3. Quentin the Doubter said 12-5.
Q the Doubter.
The Doubter. Q the Doubter said 12-5. So we have to.
I don't know if you could have the Doubter and the Beard of Knowledge. I think that just be like you can.
No, you can doubt. I
think that just means I'm a realist. I think that's what
you can doubt things and still be knowledgeable. It just you can have common sense and book smarts. It just they're two different things. I mean, you can still doubt everything. You can still have question marks on everybody. I mean, you question everything. I don't know about that guy. Maybe. I don't know. We'll just have to see.
We'll have to see.
All right. That's it.
That's it. I'm done. I quit.
That's it. We're done. Wrap it up.
We're done. Hey, I want to thank.
Continue to go off the rails here.
Yeah, I want to thank Manscaped for sponsoring our show, and again, go to manscaped.com. Promo code Cheese Focus. Get 20% off your order, and make sure you order something because your balls will thank you, and so will your wife. Peace out, everybody.